Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
So, Brendan,
Yes, sir.
it's been a little while. How you been?
It's been a couple weeks. Yeah, doing good. Staying busy. It's getting hot. It is summer.
We are amongst a heat wave. Even up here in South Dakota, we're getting a little gross with the mugginess. But you know what? That's life. It's better than dealing with blizzards.
True.
Not the ice cream. You know, people like the ice cream blizzards, but
Yeah.
Weather-wise. So anyways, today we have like kind of a themed live stream, themed episode. We are talking about underwater data centers. Brendan, this has been kind of one of the focal points of ASC in a way. Like, this is one of our, I guess, one of the things that we pitched the idea for.
Yeah, and I think that, it's, we were talking about this yesterday, it's something we have talked about, obviously, in the past, even recently, but it's been a long time since we've done like a whole, I'm not even sure if we ever done like a whole episode just specifically on data centers. But there's been a lot of stuff in the news over the last couple of years, and even here recently popping up about underwater data centers. So figured now's the time to talk about it. It kind of spurred it when you sent me an article. I don't know, it's been a month or two ago about South Korea and their proposed underwater data center. So yeah, there's several of them. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we briefly talked about it on a past live stream, but we kind of just went over that particular thing and not the subject as a whole of data centers. But yeah, the South Korea thing's like the newest thing going on, I guess.
Well, South Korea, China, they're the two bigger ones. Microsoft obviously been involved in it. We've definitely talked about them. There's another United States company called Subsea Cloud, and then obviously us as well. My whole thing is I did almost 20 years in IT, so I'm always a little biased towards that. But
right.
I think there's a good call for why underwater data centers make sense, and why, especially as ASC, it's a strong vertical too.
Sorry, meant to share the thing, and every time I do it, I forget my volume's on. Keep going, my friend.
Yep. So yeah, I gotta say, it just makes sense. But go ahead.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, you're seeing more and more interest in it with, and we'll obviously dive into it because we have some topics to go over.
Yeah.
But I mean, the biggest thing that I guess, in my opinion, that's happened is the Microsoft one that they used when they dropped that a few years ago, and then brought it back up, and you kind of analyzed everything, and we'll go over that. So
yeah. So I wanted to break down the ones that have already existed or are planned for it. We've got some pictures and stuff, and as I go into that, then we'll go over some facts. We got a lot of this is going to be like an information heavy episode. And then we can go through just talking points there at the end. But anyway, let's go into our slides because we got slides. We're fancy today again. And first one we're going to talk about is Microsoft and Project Natick. It's the most popular one. They've already had 2 versions in the water with a third one planned. The first one was back in 2015. That's kind of what it looks like. It's small. It was only 1 rack of servers. And a server rack can fit, I don't remember how many, it's I think 42U or something like that. So I think like 24 or 42 servers on it, depending how big they are. And so it's only down there for a few months. Basically, it was testing. It was their prototype. They were testing to make sure it would work out. Phase 2 came along, obviously a whole lot bigger. And it was down, they put it in the water in 2018. It was down there for 2 years. and they kept it at a depth of 117 feet. So it's pretty decent depth there.
And if you look at that picture, look at how nice and clean that thing looks. This
well,
looks good.
I don't think I put a picture of how it looked afterwards because it was completely covered in barnacles.
I got one in front of me. I can pull it up later.
Yeah,
obviously it's not going to stay looking like that the whole time it's down
there. So here's a couple of pictures inside of it. Kind of what it looks like with the server racks and stuff along those lines there.
Oh man, you found some better pictures than I did. That's cool.
Yeah, so kind of an idea of how they had it laid out and stuff along those lines. And then obviously version 3 is what they're claiming. So each one of those, obviously, is the size of one of those old ones. So that's a massive thing. And they're saying that this is big enough to host a whole entire Azure. Microsoft's cloud platform is called Azure, and this is big enough to host like a mini Azure farm. So that's pretty impressive. And the reason they're so gung ho on this is because that from that they found that they're able to build and deploy a data center in under 90 days. Right now, to build and deploy one takes up to 2 years. So it's rapid development because you don't have all the ground and all the building you have to make. You got these vessels. You take them out there. I think probably the longest portion would be red tape and approval and stuff along those lines for putting it in the water. I think it breaks down to. The other thing they found out is that the servers failed 1/8 of as much as they do on land, partially because they removed the oxygen from there and filled it with nitrogen so that it wasn't corrosive to the computers and helped with cooling and all that kind of stuff. Also, especially with the phase 3, it's planned to be completely energy neutral and super green because they're able to use hydro and wind and all this other kind of stuff. And because it's using such little electricity because it's being water cooled and all other thing else as well. So those are go ahead.
Sorry, and maybe you were jumping into this, but one of the things you're talking about how it was a green thing there. Now it wasn't not obviously this phase 3 is not done, but phase 2 wasn't that one dropped? I had it pulled up here and I thought I had it highlighted. Where they decided to, or here off the coast of Orkney in an experiment, and they said that all of their energy where they dropped it is all I want to say wind energy. So like how they powered the phase 2 was actually being powered by wind. So that was already itself a
absolutely
clean energy running experiment.
So just from this alone, Microsoft has already proven that, hey, we can take a platform that is huge throughout the world, and in our day of life, we have to have this for us to survive as a society anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That we're able to build these, sink them in the water, and power them at a massively reduced amount that we can here on land. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I think that's an important point to make why this is such a smart business move and why we're going to see these other people are hopping on this bandwagon as well. I'll hop on next is South Korea. There's the Korean Institute of Ocean Science and Technology. Theirs is proposed to be $30.8 million dollars, which once again, like we said, for $30 million, we could be doing some amazing things out there. We
could do a lot of stuff, I believe.
So anyway, there's along a plate. There's at 30 meters underwater, so roughly around the same thing as Project Natick, more or less. This is very modular, which I like the looks of it because obviously with our designs as well, we're very much into the same platform where, hey, it's modular, you can add on what you need type of thing, and they're obviously seeing the same thing. I'll be focused there on the habitat there. I put my mouse up there, but anyway, for that, they're also big on multitasking with the different modules where you could have a forecasting system for, disasters and hurricanes and tornadoes. Well, not tornadoes, but hurricanes and stuff along those lines, tsunamis. Or you could also have it for underwater tourism and leisure with, people sleeping down there and stuff along those lines. So they're obviously looking at multifaceted, and they, as we call it an agnostic approach to their underwater habitats as well. Maybe they've been at Atlantic Sea Colony website and been checking it out, and they're going from that. You never know.
Thanks a lot, Korea. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, they didn't have very much information on it because once again, this is early on. That's basically 90 meters, $30 million. That's going to be data centers. The next one was really the one that I think, besides Microsoft, was the most impressive, and that was China, because obviously China is going to have their hands in everything, and they got the money and the work power to do it. It's called the Highlander, and they did a multiple phase 2, and this is their first phase 1. It was just a 4-server test track done just last year in 2021, so they're moving fast. Basically all they did was just stream some video from it to prove that they could do connectivity underwater, and it all worked fine. So then they moved on to their second phase.
So I don't get it, because if I thought with Highlander there can be only one.
Anyway, so
if you did not think I wasn't going to make that joke.
No, I was like, what are you talking about? So they went to this other one. They left it down there for a little while. Again, towards the end of 2021, with the plans to develop a massive 100 data cabins is what they call it. Starting this year is what the plan was when this article was wrote last year. But the thing is, it's only going to be at 20 meters deep, so a little bit shallower. Even though initially they planned on it being super deep, it backed off and went that. However, they did start building it in February. So they are building which will be the world's largest underwater data center, obviously, the only one at the time. And it'll have the world's largest submarine data cable ever as well. And there was no real pictures of it except for just this. And I'm not 100% sure what we're looking at here. I think it's one of these data cabins that they talked about that they're in there. So they said 100 of these suckers, and there wasn't too much information on what it was. They did say, however, it would be powered via nuclear from the land. So, which
is a clean energy.
It is,
but it's still a controversial one.
It is,
but when there's not anything to worry about, it's a very clean type of energy.
Yeah. Another one was a Subsea Cloud, and they're based out of Houston. Well, they got multiple locations, but their main one's Houston. And this is basically what they're proposing. It's their thing is they're wanting to drop this thing deep. I mean, they're wanting to go super deep in the water with it for the same purposes of being liquid cooled. The cooler you get down there, it's going to evaporate the heat and stuff along those lines. Plus, a security standpoint, the deeper you go, the harder it is to get to it. So, but on the flip side, any kind of maintenance or stuff, then you got a hard time, whatever. But that's 10,000 feet underwater is how deep they want to drop it, I think is what the article said.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, because I got to think too, because they still hardline this stuff to the surface, right?
Right.
So that's also 10,000 feet of something that you have to worry about.
If you're going fiber, that's nothing.
Right, because obviously there's the internet cables that run across the ocean floor already, but it just seems like if you just have a straight up and down thing, it would just take something that could just mess with it. I don't know, but there's people.
But anyway, here's a picture of an actual one that I guess they've got built for testing or whatever. Once again, there wasn't too much information I found on this company as far as what they're doing, because again, all this stuff is hard to find because they're just starting off with it in their projects.
Essentially, look, is that a shipping container that they just modified?
No,
or
I don't.
It just looks awfully close to one.
Yeah, because this one here.
Okay. Yeah, I was to say, it looks like it's just like a modified shipping container, but.
And then the last one was us. So I thought we'd throw ourselves in there.
Look at those guys.
Yeah. And we're the same thing. We got similar to South Korea, or South Korea similar to us. Who knows who came with it first?
We did.
Modular approach where we can add on whatever, whether it's hotels, leisure, actually greenhouses, all that kind of stuff. But we're here talking about data centers. As you see there in the front one, that's the data center. That's what it would kind of look like. Obviously, in a 40-foot shipping container, you get quite a few server racks in there, and that's basically the size we're looking at. So there's a rough estimate
this is above the water there with the white guy just standing there without a scuba suit on.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't last very long.
No, he he would have to pose there for a really long time, and just the physics of it don't match up. But
No.
yeah, that's
Well, it gives you a scale there, what you're looking at. So once again, very similar in the size of South Korea. I think very similar to what they're planning on doing. Same thing with Project Natick, very similar in size as well. And both those, so Natick, us, and South Korea are all in the same thing as far as scalability and growth and stuff along those lines. So once again, I think we're on the right track here, guys. And I think that this is very interesting.
Yeah, because one of the things advantages companies like us, or like how we talked about the Korean company there, is that it has universal uses where the same structure can essentially be used for the greenhouses, the data centers, the habitation. So, that gives us an advantage of being able to approach different people for uses,
Yep. And that's one of the things I was going to talk to you in a second was that point exactly there. But before we got to that, I want to go through a couple of real hard numbers for people out there that are actually interested in this. So real quick, these are facts from 2021, more or less, about data centers, that a worldwide spending for data centers was $237 billion in 2021. 2% of the total energy in the U.S. is used for data centers.
How much?
2%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of energy being used just for data centers.
What do you think about the consumption of the grand scheme of things? 2% is a lot.
If you're able to kick some of that off, what would that do to the grid to be able to remove that power consumption?
Absolutely.
For other things. And then 40% of all operating costs for these data centers come from power consumption. So as a business, you're wanting to cut those costs as much as possible anyway.
Yeah.
So if you can deploy a data center in 90 days, which you don't have to all that building costs, and if you can cut your energy costs, it's a no-brainer.
Do you have the numbers of like how much money was? I suppose it's still kind of in the works, but how much money can potentially be saved because of the energy cost?
No, they don't. Once again, there's just estimates at this point in time, but nobody's done it except for Microsoft. And then once again, that was, I think, UK, over the UK. So
yeah, so there's, like I said, theirs was running off of clean energy. But yeah, like you're saying, it doesn't just have an impact on this one industry. Like you said, if you can, take power off the grid, which is a very controversial issue right now, and like even here in America, where we have an overabundance of a lot of things, but we still have, like, in certain spots, an unstable power grid. We've seen like what happened in Texas during their, when they were getting bad weather, and just even now they've talked about how some cities, based off of energy consumption, could have rolling blackouts. Right. So it's like 2%, knocking that down to, let's say, 1.4, just to be like super conservative with it. That makes a huge difference when you think of what, almost 400 million people in America that like are consuming energy. That 0.6% makes a huge difference. So,
and the other thing, not only energy, but the other thing is there's recorded to be about 2,600 data centers in the United States. And on average, they take about 2 acres of land. So all that land relocation or that you can have back or not used to. Now, I'm saying not all your data centers are going to be able to go underwater, because you have to have them strategically placed throughout the United States. Yeah. Even though most of your people, I think it's like 40% of the world lives within a few miles from the ocean. So it would make sense for them, but there are going to be those that don't. But so you can move all those, especially like San Francisco, New York, those bigger cities, move them out into the ocean. That would be huge for all that about. Then on top of that, two more things was the data centers, the market was $48.9 billion in 2021. So that's as somebody's looking at building an underwater data center, if you could get one slice of that pie, that's a huge chunk of money, once again, for any business. And if you're able to cut down increase your profits off those by your energy and your land costs, it's from a greed standpoint alone, it is very lucrative. And then just, from an environmental standpoint, the concerns are, hey, is it going to heat the waters? Is it going to disrupt anything? And that was one thing that Microsoft looked at and said, no, actually, we don't see any of that kind of stuff. Actually, the environment loves it. And as you can see, the pictures of them cleaning it off, all the barnacles and stuff on it, it creates its own environment. It's not heating up the waters around it. So really, it seems to be neutral as far as in the water too.
And one thing I even saw is they said between like the barnacles and the like crabs and stuff that are on these things, like that deadens the sound of whatever sound is emitted from this, because people are like, oh, is that gonna, is the sound itself gonna be detrimental? And it's like, no, they said that the life forms on the surface of the data center make more noise than what the habitat, or not the habitat, but the data center itself does.
Sure.
So that and I, without having to read this entire article on the Microsoft one, but I mean, after having those two come up, like each time they're like, all right, so I mean, they're not satisfied with everything right now. They want to keep improving it, just like how we want to. So even though it's already had tremendous results, I mean, they're not, just like a lot of good, ambitious people are, they're not satisfied with just good. So it's just like, even if there were disturbances, which they said there isn't, but even if there were, they're out there trying to keep it because it's not good business to be detrimental anyways.
Right.
So especially large companies like, say, your Microsofts, your Googles, Amazons, whatever it may be, to where you're going to want to have a good face if you want to keep your customer base.
And the two other things, well, actually, I don't think I was even thinking about until we're just talking about here. One thing that I was talking about is that the top data storage concern for people who house data centers is security. 76% of people, that's the biggest concern, is security. How do you be more secure than being out underwater at 100 feet or 200 feet, where what's going to get, how are they going to get to you, except for cutting the cable to your data center? And even then, there are different redundancies you could have at that point in time too, really.
Well, even then, that it cuts the cable, but that doesn't mean it's lost. It just means your connection's just lost until whatever it may be. Hey, we have a comment here. Are you familiar with hydrothermal vent energy recovery and sea steady? With sea steady, yes, we're very familiar.
Sea steady.
Sea steady.
Sea steady.
Oh, well, I thought he did. It was just a misspell. Anyways,
well, maybe.
I don't take that.
Hydrothermal vent energy. I'm very interested in that. That's been something that, going back to honestly sci-fi days. Once again, I talk a lot about Sequest, and that's the first time I actually saw anything about hydrothermal vents, and as far as more than just a phenomenon. So yeah, I do understand a little bit about that. The sea steadying, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about there. So no, I'm going to say no to that. I know the sea steadying group and the institute and all that, but I think that's different than what you're talking about. But yes, hydrothermal vents is another way to absolutely create energy. And if you're in the right place, that would once again could create a phenomenal way of generating the power off this. Not only for this, but just for anything. And Phil Newton, who's a very famous aquanaut, oceaneer, engineer, he has proposed a whole entire underwater habitat based purely off of thermal vents. So yeah, I'll check that out. Absolutely. I'll check that out after here and see what they got to say on that. Thank you for that link. Yeah, I'm all about looking at this stuff. It fascinates me, obviously. Here we are. So.
Oh, okay. He says he serves an advisor.
Very cool. Yeah, Dean. Well, I may reach out to you then. Talk a little bit more about this. Because, we're all about, especially bringing stuff like this onto this. That's one of the purposes, obviously, you're tuning in for the first time, that we've had guests on here before, and we've talked about different underwater either technologies or we've had, submarines, or anything underwater, how do we word it? Colonization, exploration, habitation related technologies, all that kind of stuff. We're all about having them on here and talking about it. So yeah, definitely. I'm going to check that out and we should chat sometime.
Yeah. Always looking to expand our network of people in the different fields. And another one that we always talk about is there's a lot of people out there trying to do current, like ocean current power generation, which everyone knows that if like you were able to accomplish that, obviously, unless something catastrophic happens, the ocean's always going to have a current. Right. And being able to harness the power of the ocean would...
That and tidal. Tidal's always going to...
Yeah, tidal power and just like, the current itself. I mean, it's a no-brainer that, unless the world blows up, which at that point we're not concerned about how much energy we can use. But, it's that's another good power source.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, it's something I know about, but I don't know obviously nearly enough. So it's definitely something we've actually talked about deep sea mining. That's been a few months ago. We had a whole episode just on deep sea mining as well. The concerns obviously we have with deep sea mining, but it's one of those things where it's going to happen. It's an inevitability. It's already started. But how do we
try to make it a sustainable?
And how do we, be good stewards of the ocean in the process of this as well? So lots to talk about. That's a big one right there.
Yeah, water desalination, that could fix a million of the world's problems too.
The energy and the desalination right there, those are two huge. And then you throw in mining. Very interesting. Now you're gonna get me off. We're gonna get off talking about that. But yeah. I forgot what my other point was going to make. That's fine. About the underwater habitat at the data centers now. But anyway, my closing remarks on all this is that the industries out there are seeing this as a viable future. Obviously, a lot of people are looking at this. Who knows how other many people are looking at that we just don't hear about, but they're do it in quiet. And there's a lot of money, as I stated out, that can be made in here, and lots of profits in it too. Mm-hmm. They're going to continue to grow. I mean, they're not going anywhere. So it's something to jump on, especially as ASC. We've talked about all the different verticals and stuff in the past, and it's easy to say, hey, underwater hotels. Everybody knows what that. But the one thing I will say that that the pandemic showed me was that hotels and restaurants are not always safe. People are always going to eat and stuff like that. But if you're shut down, you can't have people coming to you because of a pandemic or something along those lines. There goes your revenue stream. So even though I am all about let's get underwater hotels, let's get underwater resorts along those lines, I would much rather focus my whale of a business on something that is sustainable no matter what's going on. And if data centers are something that's going to drop down or go away for whatever reason, the whole world, it's going to be worse than a pandemic at that point in time that we dealt with, because you're not going to have access to anything. So data centers are one of the main things that I think that we as ASC should focus on from a marketing standpoint too. It's hard to market all these different verticals out there, scientific research, greenhouses, hotels, especially on a smaller, it's just you and me for the most part, as far as marketing goes. So it's never good to have all your eggs in one basket anyway. So although we want to hit all these different vertical markets, data centers, I think, are the one that we need to focus on the most. And I think, especially going forward, it's going to be one of our heavier ones that we'll market and plead to, I guess.
Mm-hmm. There's so many opportunities with it too. Whereas, like, say companies like, like the big ones like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, they need entire farms of these things just for their own company. But maybe there's certain companies that's like, listen, I need some storage, but whatever. Like, we could like be the people that host, say like you dropped one of these and you could host several medium-sized businesses, in them to, in like, as opposed to, it doesn't have to be like, say you're whatever, say like the IT company you used to work for, you're a decent sized company, a local company, but you don't need an entire habitat just for yourself, but maybe you need to rent the space off of one, and maybe it's more affordable because of being able to have some of those reduced costs, all that. So I mean, there's opportunity in that, just being able to have a company that hosts server space off in water as opposed to some building somewhere.
And one thing, as Dean's throwing more facts out here, he's talking about 1 gigawatt energy can support electricity generation, and that's one thing we've talked about too. Is one is energy production storage is another aspect that underwater habitats can do, especially when you start looking at like the seasteaders and what they're doing with having floating platforms and stuff along those lines. We could have a safe backup solution to them underneath their floating city or whatever that's harnessing either their waste, their electricity, whatever. Just shove a bunch of batteries in the thing, bunch of Tesla power walls, whatever, and store all your energy down there. And as Dean's showing here, harness those with geothermal vents, and you've got a great marriage there on how to produce your energy, how to store your energy, and the people consuming it up on the surface, whether it's on land or on a floating village.
Yeah, combine it with a good way to do some water desalination and stuff.
Absolutely.
You might never have to come above water level ever again.
Yeah,
I mean,
and before I forget,
yeah,
I'm going to throw in the show notes in the chat here a bunch of links to everything we talked about tonight as far as the different projects. If anybody wants to read up a little more on those, they can. Hopefully this works by throwing these all out there like this. No, it didn't. It broke them up into multiples. That looks like garbage. All right. I'll post it afterwards because I really messed up the chat with that.
Yeah. Way to go, Brendan.
What's Dean got here? This is simply the most sustainable, renewable, and organic solution to most of the issues we are presented with by people looking for answers to questions. Yeah. We talk about wave energy and all that kind of stuff. We've been trying to do it for years, and it's not making headways. Everybody wants to look at solar or wind. Wind is it's getting better, but I think wind is horrible, honestly. Just from the research I've done over the years. I did a report back on in the 90s on wind energy, back when it was first starting to take off.
Well, back then there wasn't a lot of wind.
Well, yeah, no. It was highly inefficient too. And it's made strides, but and solar, obviously, once again, it's as easy as the tides. It's always going to be there, type of thing. But you got geothermal, which, I definitely want to talk some more with you about this because it's very interesting to me, and I think that it is a viable solution for
a lot of things.
So yeah. But yeah, that was all I really had. No, there is. All right. Okay.
Baby.
Yeah. Wind isn't reliable. Exactly. Yeah.
See, up here in South Dakota, we have a ton of wind turbines. And I like the concept of them, but I do understand people's frustrations that it takes so many. I mean, don't get me wrong, one single one generates a ton of energy, and I do believe they are efficient, but they take up a lot of space too. So
and your ROI, your return on investment on them is horrible too. And that's my question, Dean, is what so, and this is something obviously we want to talk about more, obviously, but your return on investment, how much does it cost to get something up and running to harness this, and then how long would it take to pay itself back?
Because it depends on who's consuming it and all that too.
Yeah, I'm sure. But that's one of those things where obviously as a business, you're always looking at that. What's your ROI on it? So that would be something too. And my guessing, just from what you're saying here, is probably a pretty decent. So the only thing is getting it in place. Yeah, I don't know. I said I don't know enough about it. Yep.
I think he wants us to kiss. Is that what you're saying?
I think you're saying keep it simple, stupid.
Oh. Well, let's keep our options open.
It's the only kiss I know, or the band. But yeah, that's all we got for right now. We are working on several other things. We've got a video that's been finalized. We'll be showing that off.
Yeah.
So I have actually a more marketing style video coming out for data centers I'm working on right now. I'm making a new Patreon video to really start pushing the Patreon a little bit more than we have, because we got so many things coming down, and needing the funds for it are going to be more important as we're trying to find investors and stuff along those lines.
Mhm.
So we have several different stuff coming down the pipeline. Still want to do a nice video on Proteus as well, since more and more information keeps on coming off that with that. Something you don't even know about, Adam. Next Thursday, that I'm meeting with the group again that we did the last Ignition Con with, and some of the guys from that. And we're doing it. Yeah, we're doing another one. It's not going to be as big or as formal as that other one. It's just some of what we're talking about. Since I was just at Jules, when we're talking about Jules, Aquarius, and then marketing. So it's going to be I think there's only like 3 or 4 of us going to be there talking about this. It won't be live. We're going to record it. I think it's the plan, and then we'll post it later. So that's going to be fun. That Martin over in Turkey, he's been getting some really good leads. We had a really good conversation Sunday about Europe, and then just a little bit about what we're doing too. But is more on what they're doing. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And then Bean's got here. Offshore services are capable of performing now, off the shelf. All right. Yeah. I'll shoot you a message. I'll shoot you a message off of on LinkedIn as soon as we get off here in about 15 minutes or so. So anyway, nothing else. You got anything else you want to go over, Adam?
No.
I don't think we'll be back on next week, but I think in 2 weeks probably.
Oh, baby, that's a good question. When's the next Patreon only live?
That would be what we determined. It would be the 26th, I think we said. No, sorry, 25th.
25th, I think, is what we agreed on.
Yeah, we've been shooting for like that last Saturday, more or less, of the month, more or less, to do it.
We'll let you guys know what time. We did the last couple in the morning. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to keep doing the same thing?
I'm fine with the morning, but I mean, I guess I could throw a poll out there in Patreon land and see what people are saying, because I'm fine with the morning.
Yeah. And speaking of all that, and I think we'll go more into depth in the Patreon one, but I'll just be vague about it. That we are working on some things right now that are costing some money, like some nice chunks of change. Obviously, they're investments and things that I believe will help us gain investors and help us find more partners and stuff. Because obviously, like we say all the gosh darn time, is that money is king in this whole thing, and be able to get moving, get started with this, is to be able to have the funds to do so. So some things are finalized and some things we're still looking into, but there's some big expenses that have been made and are possibly going to be made. And that's it hits us hard in the pocketbook of what we have. I shouldn't say we. It's really Brendan. I just show up and help Brendan out once in a while. But but yeah. So but it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna help us marketing wise, and it's gonna help us have a lot more. That's what I'm looking for, having some more legitimacy, I guess you could say. And we'll go more in depth on that on Patreon first, and then maybe on the next regular live we'll touch it. I don't know, but so having said that, we'll go through it at the end here of ways people can help. And
absolutely, Dean. I definitely will do so.
Yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, Dean.
Yeah, and say we've only been on LinkedIn now for a couple episodes, I think, or a couple of lives. But in the meantime, I've really been focused more on LinkedIn, spend more time than any other social media platform. And I made several great contacts already. I've talked to a company that deals with plexiglass for large aquariums and stuff along those lines, which obviously we're going to need too. So, and they're very interested in our project. Everybody seems to be interested in the project, which obviously, of course they are, because it's a great project. But no, it's humbling because this has been a passion of mine and I hate being on this thing, but it's been a passion of mine for 25 years, which people say, well, why haven't you done anything about it sooner? I agree. Why haven't I done anything about it sooner? I kick myself for it too. But here we are. I can't change the past, but focus on what we're doing now. And I believe that this is the right timing. Had I tried to do it 10 years ago, I think it'd have been utter failure. So we are where we're at, what we're supposed to be, and we're focusing on this. And it's looking good, guys. We're excited.
Yeah, we're obviously not where we want to be yet, but we're further ahead than where we started. So a lot further ahead. So we've made some great connections with a lot of people. We've gained a lot of interest. We need to turn that interest into some firm partnerships, but I mean, it's getting to where we want it to be, and we're just we appreciate those that have been with us while we've been doing these live streams, and through the social media, just interacting with us and all that good stuff. So when this does become a thing and we're all over the news and all that stuff, you guys can be like, yeah, I know those guys. Those guys are pretty cool. Before they went all Elon Musk on us.
Man, well, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Dean. These are those connections I'm always looking to make. That just, if nothing else, just to talk to people who have been in the industry and know more than I do, because I'm a guy that has a vision and a dream here, and I'm trying to surround myself with people that can make this happen while throwing my money at it left and right type of thing too. So, yeah, thank you. And you're talking about people have been with us. One that hasn't been around quite a bit has been Santa Claus, old Glenn.
Oh yeah,
he messaged me the other day. He just asking what was been going on with us and stuff along those lines. So I filled him in with everything that's been going on with ASC since he hasn't been around here recently. I think his new job just killing him pretty much as far as time and stuff too. So
yeah.
Anyway,
right, man. You want me to run through the stuff?
Yeah, go for it.
You want to throw the Discord link in there, and we'll talk about that first. Discord. Join us on Discord. Download that. Get it on your phone. Get it on your computer. Whatever it is. We have a community in there. Do a lot of cool conversations in there. Just when we have fun, we just talk about a lot of different things. I mean, obviously involving underwater habitation and all that. We have a lot of different groups. I guess I don't know what you call them, threads or whatever. But trying to look at it, we have like lines just for the habitat structure, power and utilities, location ideas, scuba news, marine life, different types of boats and submarine tech that's out there, off-grid and sustainability. So we talk about kind of things that Dean's talking about. We talk about that in there. And we also talk about like tiny homes and stuff, because a lot of that kind of merges into what we do, just on a little bit different level. And then we have like a few months back, I opened up a new one for media. So the people that just want to talk about things like Sequest, like Brendan likes to talk about, or Waterworld, or Leviathan, stuff like that. That's where we can talk about it. We can talk about the good movies. We can talk about books and all that stuff in there. Just a good place to talk about a lot of those topics if that's your thing. So that's our Discord, and join that, guys, and join the discussion. And we'll hop into I'll get to the Patreon part here in a bit, but that ties in with Discord. AtlanticSeaColony.com. AtlanticSeaColony.com. What can you say about AtlanticSeaColony.com? I actually want to share it real quick, because it'll tie into the merch part too. As a matter of fact, bear with me for just 1 second. As I pull this up. AtlanticSeaColony.com. This is our website. From here, you can get all the info about us right there on the main page alone. Get links to our YouTube. Also, we have access to our I always forget. We're social media. We have the social media tab here. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Discord, YouTube, link to our podcast and TikTok. Brendan, are you still doing stuff with the TikTok?
Yep. I
Attaboy.
put some Jewel stuff out. They got a bunch of views and likes.
I'm proud of you. So yeah, you can join us on any of those social medias. And like Brendan said, we've been trying to work a little bit more in the LinkedIn realm too. Yeah, look at these handsome fellows right there too on our ASC team page. Also, resources. Brendan put together this thing. So if you're interested in podcasts that talk about a lot of these different things, we have links to podcasts that you can go to.
The C-Thing podcast should be coming out with new episodes anytime now. They just hired they got a new guy that's working for them that's for editing and stuff like that. So hopefully the one I did a few months back will be coming out here shortly.
Yeah, Brendan did a interview or whatever. So once that comes out, we'll obviously be sharing that. Book recommendations, YouTube channels, and some live underwater cams, because let's just face it, those are fun to watch sometimes. Also, merch. I wonder if it'll stay on here. Yes, it will. Okay, so merch. Man, you got a onesie on here too? I didn't see that. I don't think you told me about a onesie.
Oh, yeah.
Aquanaut and Training, you never told me about this. Now I'm going to have another kid. No, I'm kidding. I'm not doing that. Anyways, so yeah, we have a lot of merch, and this is another way of helping us. When you buy a shirt, buy a hat, whatever, a little bit of those proceeds come to us. Helps us bulk up that the ASC bank account there. And yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
If nothing else, it's good branding. I mean, that's the big thing. It's more branding for
not
ASC.
only that, it's just cool designs too. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen the Aquanaut thing. Maybe you just aren't telling me about it.
I made it short about a month. That's been a couple months ago. I put it out there. Yeah.
You have not mentioned that once.
Oh, my bad.
All right, well, you guys are watching live as Brendan's trying to wean me out of the business, so he's like just slowly not telling me things. But yeah, we got cool designs. There's hats, there's shirts, there's thermoses, there's any type of garment you have, whether you're man, woman, child, baby, we have all that.
And here's the crazy thing about the company that we do for this: they randomly just throw sales out there on this stuff. So you may log in one day and there's a sale for 20% off or something. I don't know what they determine. And we can run sales, but they only let us run sales on like certain times and stuff too. So we're kind of stuck on what we can do. So it's really just the best to check back every once in a while.
You need something for your kid there? Get him a teddy bear. Well, this one's a dog. But get him one of those. Quit giving Build-A-Bear your money and start supporting Atlanta Sea Colony.
And they're actually really soft bears too. They're small, but they're very soft.
I was gonna say, didn't you have one for the bookstore that you were? Yep. Okay, yeah. And the cool thing is kids clothes too. I need to get some stuff for my kids. They ask about it. A lot of cool stuff. I'm not going to go through obviously the whole store there. And then actually let me go ahead and close this out. Sorry. We do ways to help. PayPal. Those dang dogs. I'm gonna bring them underwater with me. PayPal. If you want to make a one-time donation, you can do so at paypal.me/Atlanta Sea Colony. That's an easy way of, like I said, if you just want to do like a one-time donation of any amount is appreciated. That's the simplest and easiest way of doing it. And also that can be found on our page too. I should have mentioned that. I'm sorry about that. And outside of that, we have Patreon. Which, real quick, thanks to our patrons, Edward Haas, Brian Acosta, Babe Hyde, Matthew Cathy, and Martin Reese. So thank you guys for your support there. Now, for those of you who don't know Martin, with our Patreon, you can do different tiers, different amounts that you can donate per month, and that helps us out. We have different tiers that have different benefits. Obviously, all the members... if you're on Patreon, we do monthly Patreon exclusive live streams. We just talked about that a little bit earlier. So a lot of times we'll do a live stream and we'll release some information there before we would bring it to here. Plus, we get, kind of bounce some ideas and all that amongst the patrons. And what you said last time we did it, the highest tier, they have a different perk than the rest.
So the two of them, the octopus and the manta tier, they've both got different perks as far as the Mantis tier, the highest one, actually is going to get their own merch, which is going to be coming from our new designs and our new graphics and stuff like that too.
Awesome. Yeah. And also that ties in with our Discord as well, to where when you're on a certain tier level, you can join our, I guess, patron only channels where we have discussions there, or voice channels. Brendan and I are constantly on Discord, talking about whatever. Sometimes we're just playing games, but you just be able to jump in there in time, and then we're on there. You can just talk with us and shoot the breeze with us on there, and talk shop and talk Sequest with Brendan. He won't shut up about it. So
ask questions about what we're doing.
Yeah, whatever it is. So that's a good way to help us, and we definitely appreciate anybody that can take the time to do that. Other than that, Brendan, I don't have anything else to cover.
I agree.
All right, guys. So thank you, and we have a new outro that thanks our patrons a little bit. So check that out on the way out. So we will do a Patreon live very soon. And then otherwise, we'll see you like probably a couple weeks. Right?
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you then.